Now, when we say there's a low consensus, it means that it's different. It's only you who did that. So in that case, we call it the internal attribution, meaning it's because of your own behavior that resulted in you handling out the assignment late. Yeah. The second one is the consistency. Now, when we talk about high consistency, it means the individual always performs like this. Let's say for a girl who always pass up her assignment late. Consistency, a high consistent, meaning that the girl always pass up her assignment late. So this one we attribute to internal attribution. IA hereby denotes internal attribution, meaning we blame the situation on the girl. Now, if she has a low consistency, meaning she doesn't always perform this way, so we result it to external attribution. We blame it on the situation, or it might be because the computer has a problem, the computer crash, or the printing has problem, or the mom just was sent to the hospital. Next one is the distinctiveness. Now when we say it's high distinctiveness, we say the reaction is only for this task. The person exhibits only this reaction, only for this task. In this situation, we attribute it externally, EA, externally. We blame it on the outside situation. But if it's low distinctiveness, when we say low distinctiveness, meaning the person always does that. So it is for most of all of his tasks, we would blame the person, IA. So these are the good dimensions. Now, when we evaluate someone, this is rather automatic. It's not like when you see a car accident happen, you would judge, okay, the first one you look on consensus, or the second one you look on consistency, and then the third one you look on distinctiveness, and you would evaluate that. It's rather natural that how we process information very quickly. Next one, there is, let's look at a case study. Now, when someone couldn't finish their work before the deadline, we can't straight away make the conclusion or whether he is at fault or not. So we use 3 dimensions as we have discussed just now. Okay, so let's say you are a teacher and someone just hand in the assignment late. The first question, you wouldn't blame on that person. First, there is a mind process going on to how you evaluate something. So the first one is a consensus. There's others do that too. Next one is the consistency. Is it consistent? Next one is the distinctiveness. Does he have a problem with other tasks as well? After that, we make a conclusion. Now the second one is the correspondence inference theory. Now this was developed by Jones and Davis. They said that a dispositional cause is a stable cause that explains human behavior and that we perceive that we are more control of the world. So because you want to find causes to things that have happened, and it is actually a very stable cause. Stable cause in terms of when accident happens, mostly we blame it on the alcohol. We rarely blame it on the bug in the insect or there is a mosquito in the car. I mean, it's a stable cause. We usually use that cause to put explanation onto the person's behavior. Now, there are 5 rules in regards to this correspondence inference theory. The first one, it is freely chosen. Freely chosen means there's no threat, there's no inducement, or there's no constraint. Meaning when you're freely chosen, you are free to choose whether it's externally caused or internally caused. No one would take a knife onto your neck and say, come, it's because this accident happened, it's because of the handphone. Okay, you freely choose what you want to conclude about the event. Inducement hereby is someone induce you to do something. Constraints, it's people doesn't allow you to do something. Secondly, the act that produced a non-common effect. This is not expected. Next one, something out of the usual expected from the society. Now, when we attribute a situation, when we give reasons to a situation, usually it's in relation to other people's understanding. Sometimes if you say accident happens because of UFO, the society doesn't take that. It's very hard for the society to accept that actually. Or there's a guy who has the ability to attract iron onto his body. Now these are some of the explanations that we can't really accept because it's just not common. It's not usually expected by us. Now next one is that we have, it has a direct consequences on us, which is hedonic relevance. Okay, we use this term hedonic relevance. And it has a direct consequences on us, which is personalism. The first one, hedonic relevance, it looks at as a whole, as a society. And for personalism, it is and look onto an individual basis. Now, of course, these two, the bias, of course there is bias, okay? There's bias in terms of how we attribute some things, because many times how we come to conclusion, sometimes it may not be right at all, or because you are not the person, you would never know why did that person does that thing. The first one is the fundamental attribution error. This is one of the famous bias. We'll look into that. Next one is the actor-observer effect. Actor in terms we are the person is the actor. We look at the person as an actor. The third one is the false consensus. And the fourth one is the self-serving attribution bias. Now, when a situation happens or a trait of someone happens, do we conclude it on internal attribution? Meaning the problem from the inside which can be controlled by the person. It happened because of the person chooses to do that. Or do we go into external attribution? It means that the problem, it happens because of the outside situation which the person do not have control of. And because the person do not have any control of, usually when you attribute someone to external attribution, you forgive that person or you let it pass. But if you attribute it to internal attribution, you blame that person, you expect that person to take responsibility. I mean, in other countries, we have seen leaders, once they failed in their election, the first thing they would do is to resign from the post. One of the famous one is in Japan. Once they fail election, they would resign for the post. They attribute very much internally. I mean, for the president of Japan. But some people, they would choose to attribute it externally. They would blame it on the media. They would blame it on how the media portrays them. So these are how we work through things. Now, in relation to oneself, we tend to have external attribution. But on other people, we tend to have internal attribution. Hereby, it means that when something happens to us, the first thing that we do, it's very natural, the first thing we would do is to blame it on other people. We would blame it on situation. The first thing we would do is we would pinpoint other people first without resulting it to ourselves. But when something happens to other people, we tend to have internal attribution. Internal attribution here, it means that we say that person is at fault, that person is held responsibility. Now let's look again at some of the definitions. Fundamental attribution theory is the tendency for observers when analyzing another's behavior to underestimate the impact of the situation and to overestimate the impact of personal disposition. So we underestimate the situation and we overestimate the person.